Hampshire kept themselves on top of opponents Derbyshire on the second day of their LV County Championship match at the Ageas Bowl, where Danny Briggs showed his skills with the ball. The home side had made a score of 332 for 7 on the first day, and they would have been eyeing up something around 400 when play resumed. Michael Bates had batted solidly on the previous day, and he now looked to make the most of his time with the tail. A couple of early, well-timed boundaries got him moving again. This shot took the 23-year-old to his 50, just the 6th of his career in his 44th first-class match. He'd needed 95 balls for this one, from which he'd found the boundary on 4 occasions. He'd also ensured that his side had picked up a 4th batting bonus point. But he was out before he'd added another run, going on the pull against Tim Groenewald, only to top edge out to Paul Borrington with a total on 369 for 8. Wayne Madsen then followed that up with a very sharp slip catch off Mark Footitt. Kyle Abbott the man to go this time for 15. James Tomlinson came in as the last man and struck a couple of 4s before he was yorked by Footitt. That meant that Hampshire had to settle for a pretty good score of 388. Derbyshire needed a good response to that, and it was left to Borrington and Stephen Moore to get them off to a solid start. They did okay, seeing out the first 10 overs in which they reduced their arrears by 31 runs. Briggs was then tossed the ball before lunch, and he struck in his very first over by having Borrington held at slip by Sean Irvine after making 10. That would have been disappointing for the visitors, but they were soon fighting back after the break through Madsen and Moore. It was an important partnership for Derbyshire, not just in the context of this match, but also their season as a whole. They've not been at their best as yet, and a good stand now might at least drag some confidence back into the camp. In 15 overs, these two added 38 runs to their total. But Irvine then found some extra bounce to find the edge of Madsen's bat. Will Smith completing the dismissal as Hampshire's excellent record in the slips this season continued. Madsen was out for 21, but Moore was still there, and he'd moved on to 48 by the time that bad light led to an early tee with Derbyshire on 87 for 2. Moore moved to his 50 on the restart, but then lost Marcus North at the other end as Briggs found enough turn to trap the Australian in front for 14. Then in the next over, Moore on 53 appeared to be beaten for pace and was also out-legged before, this time to Abbott. It was a wicket which put Derbyshire on 101 for 4. They now had to start over with 2 new men at the crease in the form of Scott Elston and Alex Hughes. Elston has had to wait for a long time to get his first-class career underway, but he's already looked impressive, making a 63 last time out. He worked the ball neatly off his legs as he got an important partnership moving in the right direction. He was well backed up for a while by Hughes, who used the sweep and the paddle effectively against Briggs, who was bowling well. England, of course, are searching for a spinner for the first Test match in a couple of weeks, but Briggs hasn't been mentioned as a possible selection by too many people thus far. He, of course, has some international experience behind him, and he showed off his skills here by switching to over the wicket to have Elston very well held by Irvine after making 25. That success was backed up by Abbott, who ended Gareth Cross's innings to his 27th ball, in which time he'd made only a single. And when Briggs struck for a 4th time to have Hughes held by Irvine on 32, Derbyshire had lost 3 wickets for just 4 runs in a horrid 10-over spell. David Wainwright and Tony Palladino added just 2 more runs in the remaining 5 overs as the visitors hit the buffers at the end of the day, thanks in part to Briggs, who has figures of 4 for 29 from 22 overs. He's helped to reduce Derbyshire to 166 for 7, and that leaves them 222 runs behind and needing another 73 to avoid the follow-on, which now doesn't look an easy task.